Welcome back to another special Turnbuckle Trash Talk interview Wednesday. I am the officiant Kent, and I'm joined by the Rapture, Jay Sky, Richard King, multiple-time tag team champions, 2/6 of one of the hottest, fastest-growing factions here in Florida. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I want to get the whole faction at once, but we literally don't have enough chairs in this space to do that. But we'll eventually get to it. I wanted to take you guys back to the very, very beginning of both of your wrestling careers, so feel free to answer these questions independently. When were you first exposed to wrestling?
Well, you're old, so you go.
All right, so I guess, so here's the thing. I thought I started watching wrestling around like 2002, 2003, but I found this old picture a couple days ago. I just showed him today where I'm doing The Rock's eyebrow in pre-K. So I guess I started watching wrestling in the 2000s.
But your first real wrestling memory was like 2002, 2003.
Yeah, mostly around like Paul Heyman SmackDown, Eddie Guerrero, Brock Lesnar, all that stuff. So
I was graduating high school, but we're not going to get into that.
How about you, Rich?
Mine probably was like 2005, 2006, when I was like 5 or 6. My dad is a huge rock mark, so he had like all the old DVDs and stuff, so we just like watched those on loop. And then eventually just started watching Raw and SmackDown and playing the games, and that's kind of just how I got into it. Yeah.
Did you guys have any particular favorite wrestlers during that time, like people that stood out to you? I mean, you said The Rock, Mark, but did you particularly take to The Rock, or was there somebody else that kind of like caught your eye?
The Rock's cool. He's awesome. But my guy was always Edge, and like till this day, like he came out on SummerSlam, the most recent SummerSlam. I marked out like crazy. I was like, is Edge? And he hit a spear. What? That's nuts. But Jeff Hardy, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those two were just the pinnacle for me.
Those are two really big ones in your guys' generation of wrestlers, like that stand out. You know, a lot of people from my generation will talk Bret Hart, you know, Stone Cold, or even earlier Hulk Hogan. But it makes sense that guys like Jeff Hardy and Edge stand out specifically because they kind of defined tag team wrestling, which is what you guys are doing, and also your generation. So that's really cool. What about you?
So for me, I think you received this answer a lot, but Eddie Guerrero is a big one. I don't know, it's something about him that just, I guess a lot of people gravitate towards too, especially being Hispanic as well. But Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Batista, Undertaker, all the big guys, Kurt Angle, all of them, I loved on. Even right now, I didn't like him back then, but JBL, I appreciate his stuff from back then.
He had an important role in wrestling that a lot of people didn't know. He was the big, strong, tough guy. He was the old school wrestler in a kind of changing era of wrestling. Yep. And he also brought in, like, I don't think anybody except maybe $1 Million Man has ever done the rich guy gimmick better than JBL. So that was a really, really good one. Yeah. Was there a particular moment that you decided, I want to be a wrestler? This is what I want to do. And what moment was that? Was it a particular match, a particular show, or just a particular time in your life?
So for me at least, I've wanted to do it ever since I was a little kid. What really set it off was I was having a conversation with...
I'm saying what's up to
hey,
my Rapture
what's
boys.
up, Jerry?
Hey, Kent.
Hi, grab a chair.
Jared.
Come sit down.
No, it's just a Big Boy cameo. I'm just saying what's up and continue with your interview. These guys are the best.
We're going to have you on in the future.
And I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
No, but so the question was, when did...
What moment did you decide, I want to be a wrestler?
Okay. So, again, like I've always wanted to do it since I was a kid. The moment that kind of caught me, where it was like, I got to do it now or never, is I was starting to work, and this was around when I was like 18, 19. I was starting to, work and, have a job and stuff like that, and I realized, like, man, like, if I don't do this now, I'm going to be stuck doing this for forever. And I was having a conversation with my cousin, like, a couple years ago. It was like 2 years ago. And I was like, bro, like, when I start wrestling, like, this, and this, and he was like, why don't you just do it? And I was like, you're right. I was like, let me put it on paper, because if you don't put it on paper, you don't write it down and see it every day.
That's true.
It's not going to happen.
That's true. Actually, the young professor said he writes down a list of like goals he wants to accomplish in his life, and he keeps it all on paper. And it's absolutely true that if you don't write it down, how real is it?
It's not. Yeah, it's just a thought.
Yeah.
So that was my thing. So probably about 2.5 years ago, I want to say about 2017. Yeah, around June, I think it was. That's when I made it real for me. So.
For me, like I said, I liked wrestling when I was younger, but then I stopped watching maybe around 2011, And I didn't pick it back up until 2015. And like I was walking down to the living room and just my mom had wrestling on, and Seth Rollins was on, and he was cutting this promo as heel Seth Rollins with J&J Security. And I was like, this dude's awesome. Like, and he kind of reminds me of Edge. Like,
Yeah.
so I sat down, I just got back into it, and then I think it was around 2016 I made my first call to where I was going to start training. But I was told, hey, you're only 15 right now. Come back later. I came back when I was 16. I started training. I was 16, right?
Yeah.
So I started training when I was 16, and because I originally wanted to do game design. I was going to go to Full Sail and do all that, but I'm like, do I really want to do that? Because I love working out. I love being physical. I did amateur wrestling in high school.
That's a lot of sitting behind a desk or at a computer. Like,
So,
there's not a lot of movement involved there.
I've done all this stuff already. Why don't I continue it into something that I really enjoy now? So wrestling was just that outlet to do that.
So how did you guys discover training? What was the process of that? Because a lot of guys I talk to say it's not a cut and paste, easy process to get into. It's still, you have to do a lot of searching and a lot of research to find a place because, A, there's so many schools that are just there to take your money and not really teach you anything. And there's also, the good ones are hard to find. It's not like, oh, I went from high school on the wrestling team to college, so on and so forth, like a lot of professional athletes. How did you find your wrestling school, and which school was it?
Google. That's the honest truth, because I guess I was just naive. I didn't really know that there was a difference. I know there was different trainers, and you had Team 3D and stuff. I know who 3D is, but they were too far away from me. So the closest one, I just looked it up, and it was Team Vision Dojo. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, that's 10 minutes away from where I live. That's the school I'm going to now. So, and it was great. I had a great time there. Yeah.
For me, it was the same, but I think I did a little bit more research. One of the first ones that did pop up was Team 3D. And so what I based my decision off of is I wanted to see it before I actually went to it, because I think that's what everything. You're going to buy a game, you got to see it.
You got to at least try it.
Right?
You got to rent it and play it for a minute before you actually commit to it.
Yeah, so the same thing with this. So I saw that the Team Vision Dojo, they had a lot of videos online. Mm-hmm. So that was my thing. I got to see it. It's like if I was there for a little bit without actually being there. And so when I went there, I saw the familiar faces from the videos and all that stuff. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Just, looking it up.
Well, one of the things that appealed to me about Team Vision, I didn't end up going because it was too far, but was they bring in a lot of guest trainers. It seems like every other week they have someone there that we would all recognize if we pay any attention to wrestling.
Hey, today, did you see who they have today?
No, who they have today?
Low Key is coming over there today. So, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, Low Key, Evilise, the list goes on and on and on, and it's such a great opportunity for wrestlers to get face-to-face with people that they may have seen on TV. That's just a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
So what was the easiest part of wrestling training for you, and what was the most difficult part?
I think a lot of people, the bumping is the hardest part. For example, your body is not, at first, it's not willing to take a bump. Your first reaction is to catch yourself.
I talk about this on every single interview because everybody says the same thing about bumping, and I say, your body is designed to avoid doing that. You have to break every natural instinct in your brain to actually fall down on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult.
It's hard, and
Because now it's the opposite.
Oh yeah.
Now you gotta. Right. Oh,
yeah.
I'm actually falling.
Oh, I'm falling. Let me just But yeah, bumping was one of the hardest things that I remember. There was one day where I was just bumping, and even coming out of that training session that day, I was like, man, is this for me? And I really had to think to myself, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it, but I'm gonna keep doing it because this is what I want to do. But probably the easiest, I wouldn't say it's easy, but the thing that I picked up the fastest was probably the wrestling part of it. I watch wrestling a lot, so I think that helped too. So actually doing something I've been seeing for a while, it kind of helps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you can actually start viewing it in a new light, so you can go back and watch stuff that you've already seen and being oh, that's the footwork.
And see it a different way.
That's where they put their hand and everything. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what it is.
I think we have slightly the opposite, where the bumping and the training was kind of, I don't want to say easy, but I just come.
But it came naturally.
Yeah, I just come right out of amateur. So the long practices, just the constant grind of it all, kind of just sat easy with me, or a little easier. it was the character part and like coming out of my shell and like being emotional and, you know, showing the pain on your face and really trying to sell it to an audience. That was like, you know, it felt weird, especially when you're just doing practice matches and it's like, show more emotion. It's like there's 3 people here.
Yeah, I feel like wrestling appeals to 2 types of people. There's the theater people or the athletic people, and they have to learn to do the opposite person's thing. So I came from a theater background. I had to learn to be athletic. Athletic people come from their background. They have to learn how to be theatrical.
Yeah.
And the concepts are the same in both. But let's talk about your amateur experience versus this. What was different? Like, what did you find yourself having to transition with having come from an amateur background? I mean, obviously all the theatrical stuff, but like, was there anything about the physical element that you were like, oh, okay, like I have to be more, I don't know, soft about doing the things I'm doing?
Well, in amateur, you're always down. You know, you're never standing straight up, and that was one thing that I always got. They're like, when you come in for a lockup, you can't be all the way down here. You need to be up, chest up, going for the lockup. Yeah, you need to look big. So that was a little bit of a challenge for me. Just simple chaining, I was really tight because I was used to being really tight. Also, it's weird running long distance and then running in a ring. Very different. Very different. So I was used to running like, you know, for what's the word I'm looking for here? Distance, I guess.
Yeah.
I was, but then you're just trying to do short bursts of like all your energy. It kills you. Like,
well, and you're getting a lot of momentum, but you're still having to turn on a dime and go back the other direction. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So how did the Rapture come to be? Because you both went to the same school, which is a pretty good starting point. But when did you guys like meet? And tell me your different perspectives on how it all came to be.
Yeah. So ironically, me and Richard, we started around the same time. Well, actually the same month. I think he started a couple days before. And at first, like I would just say hi or whatever. But it wasn't until like a couple months after, right? It was a couple months after where we started doing like some practice matches together. And we're like, dude, like we should really like start teaming and start doing all this stuff. So our first match that we had, our debut show, it was a CWE show. I think that's what it was. And we tagged in there, and we had another match that day too, and we tagged again, and we were like, dude, this is it. Like, we gotta, you know, tag team wrestling was real big with us, especially like with our influences and stuff like that.
So Eddie was a big tag team wrestler as well as a single star.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys definitely have roots in guys that are similar sizes to you, as well as ability, as well as a tag team background. So
yeah, so like all that stuff. So we were like, okay, we're gonna start, you know, teaming. We start coming up with ideas, different names. I remember I was at work and I was texting him and I was like, hey, like we got to come up with a name. He was looking at like different moves we should do and stuff. And then for some reason, like we found the Rapture and we were like, that's us right there. I texted him, he texted back. He was like, dude, that's it. That's our thing. Because we had a name before, and what was it, the Resistance or something? And
I just watched Force Awakens.
Yeah, and
The Last Jedi or something.
it's not good.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. But yeah, that's when we first started. Like, it was around 2018, like the beginning, where it was official. Like this is what we want to do. So.
And for having been around for such a short time, you guys are everywhere. I met you guys at Brawl USA. We've worked on ACW a bunch together. You guys are over there doing WXW. You're all over the place. You're in Georgia.
Yeah.
What was that process like, and are you surprised at how quickly you guys caught on?
Oof. So, I think we were lucky enough to kind of meet a lot of people every time we go to shows, and we met a lot of good people. A lot of good people where they kind of tell us, hey, like, you should come to this show. We end up coming and like we end up being booked on the show. So and I know a lot of wrestling is that too, meeting people, networking, and branching out to different spots. I don't know if you have a different viewpoint on that as well.
I was just gonna say, like, so much of it is luck. Like, I mean, we're working hard, of course, but the reason, I won't want to say the main reason, but the reason we're WXW Tag Team Champions is because we went to an ARW show and met Sean Scott, who invited us to the tournament for WXW, the tag tournament. We couldn't make it, so then we came to the next show, and then...
No, we actually went.
We did?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, that's right, we did.
We did.
And we got little medals. I remember that. We weren't on the show. Yeah. So then we just kept going back to WXW, and finally won the tag titles. And so it's a weird thing of, like, if we never went there to that ARW show, would we have ever met him? You know.
And honestly, I think a lot of that gets the door open for you, but I don't want you to discredit yourselves enough to say that it wasn't your skill that took you to the next level. Like, yeah, meeting the right person might open the door, but it's up to you to walk through it and to impress once you've been there and to like justify their faith in opening the door for you. So I do want to give you guys credit on that. You are one of the most talented tag teams in Florida, for sure, if not countrywide, and I do see a very bright future for you guys. So you've become champions, you're out on the road all the time. Talk about the formation of the Rapture as a whole, because it's grown. I mean, it started out as just the two of you, then Lexi, then Jarrett, now DeMarcus Cutler. Like, what's the thought process behind that? And my question for you is, how do you avoid becoming the NWO?
That's
Where
true.
everybody's in the Rapture.
So I guess we'll start from the beginning.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we got Lexi in because we were doing open ring with her. So it's just me, Jose, and Lexi, just the three of us in the ring, three of us in the building by ourselves. So we
This
just
is like nighttime. This is like maybe like
Yeah.
from 11 o'clock to like 2 in the morning, just like
Yeah.
in the building, just doing.
Both talk.
Yeah, so it's like what 11 o'clock to like 2 in the morning, just going ham in the ring, just working on stuff, working out, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I remember. I remember one Christmas. What was it, like Christmas of 2018?
Yeah.
We came into the dojo and like no one else was there, and it was just us.
Christmas Day.
Christmas Day, left the families. Got to go train. Got to
texted
go.
everybody, too.
Yeah, we texted everybody. Hey, who's coming? Who's coming? Nobody. It was just us. So it was just a lot of like just the three of us all hanging out together, and it's finally like, hey, we're doing this tag stuff. Why don't we make it a trio? Why don't we you're already riding with us on stuff. You're already training with us. You might as well join, publicly. She's like, yeah, definitely. So then that was it. And then in January of this year, we were heading up to Spinebuster in Georgia. And we were like, okay, it's just us two. I don't drive, just so Jay does. So we need to find somebody else that can take the load. So we were texting, and Jarrett's the one that responded. So we're like, okay, Jarrett's in the car. And as he was in the car, I was like, hey, bro, listen. We might not be able to get you on the show, but you might manage. He's like, okay, cool. He's like, so if I manage, am I in? I'm like,
What do you say to that?
I'm like, yeah. So
The thing is, like, we knew Jarrett, but we didn't really like talk to him enough. But that day, since we were in a car for how many hours, like
Yeah.
we got to know him, and we became really good friends with him too. So that was one of the things that ultimately came to it.
So he was in, and then big gap in between till DC, where it was a thing of like he wanted to film promos with us. So we're like, okay, not being a part of the Rapture, just film promos, take pictures and stuff. We're like, okay, cool. I was like, hey, bro, we're doing this at my place later tonight. Come over. But little did he know that we had been talking for a while about adding him. And I told my mom, like, hey, we might add DC tonight, but like, keep it on the down low. And she's like, okay, cool. So I'm in my room, like, getting ready to for the photo shoot, and he's out in the living room. And all of a sudden I hear, yo, bro, I'm in the Rapture? And I'm like, and I came and I'm like, what? I was in there for a minute. What happened? She's like, oh, I wasn't supposed to tell him? I'm like, I literally said no.
I said, don't tell him.
Yeah. So he's like, bro, so am I in? I'm like, yeah, you're in. Then we took a photo shoot, so, yeah.
One of the things I like about the Rapture, another thing I like about it, is that you guys have incorporated so many different styles and unique, personas. Each of you has your own individual thing that works together as a collective. Like I see Jarrett, and I think like, oh, he's kind of like cocky, like jock type.
Yep.
And then you bring you'll wear the owl mask, which I think is super cool. Everything is unique and individual, but somehow there's a connection between all of you guys, and Rapture. It's not like Rapture and then some guy. Like everybody works really well together. Not only that, you guys travel together. Even if one of you or two of you aren't on the show, it's impossible to go to a show and see just one member of the Rapture. There's at least going to be two, maybe all of you. And I think that's really, really cool too, because it builds a team-like mindset. What do you guys envision for the future of the Rapture? What's your plan?
So yeah, I can. So when we started out, that was one of the biggest things that we wanted to do. We wanted to be able to kind of like. So the idea was, we liked the whole thing of a faction, but it wasn't only to just have a faction and not be close to them, because at the same time, we wanted to be in one unit with people we loved being around as well. Because it's one thing to be in a group with like some other people like you really don't know, but we wanted to make sure that each of us were like really close friends and like we got to know everybody and know how we are and all that stuff. So I think for now we're good on how many people we have. If we do decide, I don't
can always
know.
kick the weak one out, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, if one of you starts to fall down the ladder, just
Yeah.
shove them out and replace them.
So that's another thing. With like a lot of the stuff that we decide to do in the group, we always ask. It's kind of like a majority. Everybody has to say yes to something. So not one person is a leader. Like we had this direction of where we wanted to go, but now when it comes to like if we're gonna add somebody else on, and it's never happened, but if we're going to kick somebody off or something like that, like everybody has to agree on it. And there has to be a real reason for it. But as for like the future of the group, I think I like how many people we have. But again, if it comes a point in time where it's like, hey, this would be cool to add this person, I don't see why not. I don't know.
Well, and
Yeah.
what's the goal of the Rapture too? Like,
Save the world.
Save the world.
I was
the
hoping.
world.
I'm setting you up for that, guys. Come on.
I think the goal is just to like the real goal. Well, that's not the real goal, but you know what I mean. I want everybody to grow. I want everybody to just get better together, and it just creates like an environment that's just like nice and healthy, you know. Because I feel like there's so much negativity going on that it'd just be nice to have this group that can just like be positive, you know. We might be heels on the outside, like coming out here, but you know, I like to think that behind the scenes that we can try to make like a positive impact on
Wrestling is very dog eat dog. Everybody is about getting to someone else's spot, and so it does cause a lot of conflict backstage and a lot of like not helping each other out. And so I think it does do a nice thing that you guys are there to support one another and to help one another and to boost one another up, advise, you know, get through the hard times, because like it can be very, very lonely and very, very competitive. So I think that's a cool aspect. I want to ask you guys the 3 questions, now it's 3, that I ask at the end of every show, and I want you both to answer individually. 1, what misconceptions or illusions about wrestling did you have that once you got into it were shattered? Like, for example, some people would have thought, oh, I thought the ring was harder, and then it ends up not hurting as much as they thought it would. Or, you know, I thought we would all be millionaires by now, or something like that. Like, what illusions did you have? How did they change, and what's the reality?
The illusion that I probably had was that it looks fun on TV. Everything looks fun, but it's not always fun. At the end of the day, it's still a job, even though it's not a 9 to 5. So like that was kind of like, oh, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. It's grit, it's hard work, it's people being assholes. Can I say that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. People being assholes backstage, or, you know, trying to, you know, just not, they don't have your best interest in mind.
Right.
So that was kind of like, dang, that sucks. Oh, what were the other ones? I'm sorry.
Oh, that was it. Just
Okay.
Misconceptions or illusions.
I think one of the big ones, and he kind of touched on it too, was I was wondering how people were going to be in the back. That was my biggest thing. Coming into it, I'm like, because for some reason, like I really didn't fit into one group of people when I was like in high school and growing up. But like I automatically thought, I was like, okay, wrestling's my thing. Like this is my thing.
Yeah, we all love wrestling, so we'll all get along perfectly.
Exactly, but then I had that doubt where it's like, maybe I won't get along with everybody. And it's not on my part, that I know that, and you hear all these stories of like, you know, in the WWE and stuff like that, where like people backstage are not so friendly. And that's what I thought it was going to be like backstage. So I was always kind of like, you know, if I'm going to be at the show, I'm going to be just in a corner quiet. But like going back to like the group, like being with them, it kind of helped me like break out of my bubble and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
well, wrestling is a lot like high school. I mean, we do have this one thing that connects us all, but we're all still individuals with our own, you know, political beliefs or our own, you know, whatever the case is, our own likes, our own dislikes, and those don't always match up.
No, not at all.
So the one thing that binds might not be the only thing that keeps us together.
Exactly, that's the truth.
If you had to give advice to someone who was interested in getting into wrestling, what would it be?
Ooh. So I think about this every time. So it kind of alludes back to what I was saying about the bumping and me not wanting to continue it. So one of the main advice I would be, hey, it's going to get tough and it's going to get really bad at some points where you're going to think you're going to want to stop doing it. But if this is your dream and you really want to do it, keep pushing, keep going, because in the long run, like I don't want to say it gets easier because it doesn't, but like you won't regret you did it. Living out your dream is something awesome, so it's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If people are telling you you're good, you're probably at least decent. So you should keep at it. Yeah, like you're saying, it can get really hard. It can get like tough, and you want to quit. But I think finding, like what we found, a support group. Finding friends. I think do that right away. You have a class. There's so many people in each wrestling class, especially nowadays. Find your people, latch on, and, make friends and learn.
Well, and I think anybody new in the business is looking for that. So it's very easy to make those connections. As you get in it longer and longer and longer, maybe fewer and fewer people are interested.
Yeah.
But right away, everyone is like out on the sea by themselves, and they're all looking for a life preserver. So you're right. Your training class is the best place to start because everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah.
If you could change one thing about wrestling, backstage, in the ring, audience perception, anything, nothing's off limits, what would you change?
I think there's so many fantastic promotions with such great talent, especially in Florida. I think if more people work together, like if more promotions came together, instead of having, we have 15 small, tiny indie promotions with all good talent. Why don't we all come together? And I know there's backstage politics and stuff and reasons as to why that wouldn't happen, but it's the same with, you go to the WWE, AEW, all this thing. Wouldn't it be cool if we could just all be friends and just, share talent
Work
and do this
together
and that?
in some capacity,
Because it only makes it better for the fans, for guys like us who just also love wrestling. Everybody would love to see a Survivor Series where it's Team WWE versus Team New Japan. People would go crazy for that.
It's true.
And it's just a shame that, we're probably never going to see that, but,
That's true.
I think one of the big things to change. So this one I have to think about. This is not so easy, but
well, I want to. I'll jump on what you were saying, Richard.
Yeah.
I agree. Collaboration between promotions is important. I'm not saying everybody has to share money. I'm not saying everybody has to share talent or share promotion, but at least come together and say, "Hey, you're running on that day. I'm not going to run on that day 15 miles away from you because we're both losing audience on that. We're both losing talent. We're both losing money on that." I hate when I get booked on a show and there's 5 other shows running because I know nobody's coming to that show and we're all losing out. Yeah. We're all losing out on seeing each other succeed. We're all losing out on making money, and it just hurts the company as a whole. So yeah, I agree with you to add on to that.
So I guess another thing to touch on is kind of like, and I guess this happens all the time too, where I feel like more companies should give younger guys a chance. And that's not only saying because we're young and stuff like that, but like even in the future, I preach the same thing. I feel like a lot of it, like in some companies, you see the same people everywhere all the time. And it's like, okay, I see them here and it's the same thing. I'm seeing them here. They're doing the same thing. But why not bring in more new people so we can get something different kind of thing? You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree. You got to mix it up. Every promotion should find their own niche and not try to copy what everyone else is doing because it just hurts everyone in that case.
It's the same
like,
product.
Nobody wins if you're seeing the same show in 2 different places because why would you go twice?
Yeah.
Why would you spend your money twice? Or why would I spend $20 at this one promotion and 10 at this one to see the same show?
Same thing.
I'm going to go to the $10 show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. Now I want to give you guys a chance to promote anything you want to promote, whether it's a school, whether it's a promotion, maybe not a specific show because this might not air in time, but anything, your social media, this is your chance. Go.
Ooh, we get to list our stuff. All right, so I'm on Instagram at JSkyOfficial, so JSky_official. Twitter, I'm at Sky's the Limit J. Also on Instagram for the group as the Rapture_official, I believe.
I'll make a graphic too.
Yeah, trying to remember all these. And there's one more that I probably, on Facebook as Jose Marte, that's my real name, and then parentheses J Sky, so you know it's me. Rich, if you want to go ahead and.
You almost forgot the Rapture Facebook page. It's, what is it, the Rapture Wrestling? Rapture Wrestling?
Or just Rapture when you search.
Yeah, either, it'll pop up probably. For me on Instagram, it is Richard King Official, I think. Twitter is True Richard King, I think.
I'll find it.
Yeah. And then YouTube, Richard King. What are your Sky's the Limit now on?
Sky's the limit.
Sky's the Limit on YouTube. We also have a YouTube page for the Rapture, don't we?
We do. I gotta find the name on that.
Yeah, we don't know the name to that one. Rapture
Check
something.
their Facebook page. I'll be sharing it,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
It'll be there. And then any upcoming events, we have WXW September 14th.
If it makes it. Because this
Yeah.
This may not air by then.
Yeah.
So go
Hey.
check out WXW. These
Yeah.
are your tag team champions right now. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, right now.
By the time this airs, who knows?
Yeah.
But
Always check out ACW where we're at right now. Always a great show. Brawl, September 28th. We're going to be there. I can't think. FXE, October, what was it, 19th? FXE, the next show. I'll be there. I don't know if you're going to be there. I don't think.
know, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he might not be. I think that's it.
No, I got one
We
more.
got one more.
Follow Turnbuckle Trash Talk on Facebook, on Instagram,
Twitter.
on Twitter, on all the social medias, because that's important if you want to see more of this guy right here. Yeah.
or more importantly, the people I actually bring on, because I'm not the draw of this show. I know it. I understand. I get it. Guys, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Have a
Appreciate
great
it.
show, and we'll do a part 2 when we get the whole group together and see what kind of madness that wreaks. But
That'd be dope.
thank you guys. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
guys next week on another Turnbuckle Trash Talk interview Wednesday.